randomly, I think it was Saturday night, I turned on ESPN2 instead of being Sports Center. They were showing a Heroes of the Dorm event.
Please explain this a little bit for me, because I believe I know what this is, but I can't quite remember.
Okay, so Heroes of the Dorm is it's a tournament of campus-based Heroes of the Storm MOBA teams.
Oh, okay, right.
So
gotcha.
here, this is me blowing my own mind of the knowledge of Heroes of the Storm is a 5-on-5 MOBA game, which is a multiplayer
online battle arena. We finally figured that out.
So you pick your hero. There's different classes. You work together to defeat like monsters along the way. You get power-ups. I think you build up the class of your character, and you can decide like what power-ups you get in order to design your character, and that could
you use skill trees.
There you go, and that could maybe decide the strategy you employ with the skills of your teammates. And the whole point is you destroy the core of the other team. Like I'm picturing like Warcraft 2, where you got to destroy the village and you win. You know what I mean? Like you got to. That's what I'm picturing, and then you have to fight off the other 5 heroes. That's all I really know. You know why? That's all I really know. Because watching this event
was a mess.
It was an absolute disaster of trying to explain the game itself, Heroes of the Storm, the strategies, what to look for, what the different classes of characters were, etc., etc. So the format of this, I don't know if this was the only event for Heroes of the Storm. I mean, this is like you win this event, whatever players at the university team, like they get like their tuition paid for. And so it was a format like trying to be like a sports show, typical sports show, where you have like 5 commentators. I think it was like 4 male, 1 female, explaining the different teams and the strategies. So at the beginning, I'm like, okay, this is the audience. They're a step ahead because I'm a sports fan, but I also like video games, obviously. Sell me on this event and on this Heroes of the Storm game. Sell me on the MOBA competitive scene. Go. They explain the game for maybe a minute and a half, and that could be an exaggeration of too much.
So they're already assuming too much.
They're assuming I know what the hell this game is, and I don't. They're like, you got your team of 5 versus 5. You can get your power-ups by defeating minions or defeating players, and you destroy the core. I'm like, okay, what are my choices of different types of characters? Is it all melee? Is it projectile? Not explained. Wasn't explained any basic strategies in terms of, okay, like how big's the map? What happens when your player dies? Does he come back right away? Is he gone for 20 minutes or 20 seconds and then spawns again? Not explained. And again, this is someone that's into video games, I played strategy games. And
you were ready to accept this if someone was going to explain this to you.
I was ready. So I'm like, okay, let's go. And then I was like, scratch my head. Then they just flash cut to then the action. And this is where it's problematic. And this is why I hate to say it. This ain't going to catch on with people that are already into it. All this stuff going on the screen. 10 players firing at each other with 2 different colors, red and blue, like where the health bars are to distinguish their teams, around a core. I don't know whose core it is watching. I don't know what's going on. They're not explaining it. And it's too quick to explain. 10 different players, I think, and the strategy's going on. Players retreating, double teaming. So I'm really trying. I gave it a shot. So they do that, and then when the core goes down, they try to do a catchphrase. Oh, GG! And I'm like, ooh, that's kind of douchey. Okay. For a good game.
Yeah.
So then they throw a few rounds. They try to explain.
That's abbreviation for internet. You don't need. Okay.
So anyway, they try to explain the strategies, and again, I'm between a layman and someone who's into video games at this point. I'm like, okay, explain it. Still not getting it. Showing the quick clips, it's too frantic. You'd really have to be into the game and know the teams and know what was going on, I think.
This is my problem as an outsider watching competitive video games like this in general. Same thing goes for StarCraft or something like that. The people who are playing this at such a high level, their strategies are so ingrained and everyone knows exactly what to do immediately that there is no time for the person who's just trying to get into this to process exactly what's going on.
No, it's too quick.
Yeah.
It's absolutely too quick. At least with StarCraft, you can see like resources going and people building it. You can distinguish different sides attacking each other. This was just a mess, an absolute mess that I couldn't keep track of, and they couldn't explain it even quick enough. Oh, that team's going down, the core's going to go down, and the core's down. It's like, okay.
Well, that's a huge problem right there. If the action is too quick for actual commentators to say anything meaningful, then then it's not going to catch on in any large scale form with, like you said, unless you're already very, very into it to begin with. Now, Street Fighter, let's say you take something like Street Fighter, watching competitive Street Fighter, same deal. These people go in, they know exactly what they want to do, but it's easy to make sense of a visualization of a one-on-one fight.
I've seen competitive fighting games. I can follow that.
It's fun to see that.
Yes.
5-on-5 that's too much.
It's nuts. Here's the other reason why I don't think it's ever going to catch on mainstream. When you're watching sports, you see the people making the event and the drama. You see the basketball players.
Oh, so you didn't in this?
No. Let me get to it.
Okay.
You see the three-pointers being made or missed. You see the emotions on their face while it's happening.
Sure.
You can get into the human drama, the tragedy of while it's happening, and the accomplishment. That's a huge part of sports. The Olympics, for example, I brought up before. With this, there's an automatic disconnect because you're watching a screen, and then you have to then figure out on the fly who's controlling which character.
You gotta make that link.
On what team. There's no human drama involved. They cut back to showing the 5 people on the team, playing the game. So then I got to think, okay, which one's which? And like, it's like watching automatons play a sport. That's the best way I can do it. Yes, there's people controlling these characters, but it's not the same. It's just not the same. Again, this is coming from someone who loves video games.
Yeah.
It's just not, to me, it's not the same.
No, we're not crotchety old people who don't get gaming. It's just, this is a spectator sport is not working out.
The way it's presented, I don't think it's going to be very difficult to get any human interest behind it. And that's what sports comes down to, is human interest.
Right.
It's not just, I like seeing these two teams. No, you like the players on the team. You follow the individual players. There's star players. There's role players. There's crummy players. Each player has a place. With this, it's like you cut to the people, you see their faces. They did one part where they try to do like a team photo, like and they show like their favorite character and like their arms crossed, and I'm like, that's great. I'm gonna forget it in a second when I see 10 people on the screen at once battling. I can't tell what's what. So I'm not saying competitive sports cannot break through to the mainstream totally.
Competitive gaming.
Excuse me, competitive gaming. Sports kind of already has kind of.
Yeah.
But for this game in particular, and now I'm trying to think in my head what game can break through, because this type, I don't see it happening. It's going to be a very special type of game that's a lot easier to follow, with ebbs and flows, and easily distinguished sides, I think, that you can easily track the action. It's like this is like watching an action movie where the quick cuts are happening, like the Paul Greengrass style, and you can't tell who's throwing what punch and what's landing. That's exactly what I felt watching this.
Ugh.
So, we talk about competitive games. You have games like this. You have StarCraft, which I think I've seen that stuff. That's easier to follow. Or you have, first-person shooters. But the problem with first-person shooters is that there's no centralized thing you're watching. There's no centralized screen. You're watching individual perspectives back and forth. So even that's confusing. We spoke about that with Splatoon at the NWC 2015, which is weird for me to say. Is that I said it was hard to follow because I didn't know what was going on. It was cutting back and forth. I don't know who had control, what was the strategy. So I'm not saying it's totally without value. What I'm saying is the ratings will not catch on, at least on TV, for this. Because if I had to turn off after 15, 20 minutes, I can't imagine a casual sports fan with little interest in video games turning on ESPN2 watching this, and it's like, oh my God, this is very interesting.
Right. If you get this and you have fun watching it, more power to you. That's fine. That's great. And enjoy it, but it's not. You're not going to find a wide audience.
So that was my experience. I finally caught it randomly, and we'll see what happens with those. They're trying to do those 24-hour, esports channels, and we'll see if it catches on, or if it's just a niche thing.